Welcome back to the World Championship Series Valencia, day number 2, as we've already concluded one of our series in the round of 16, and we have plenty more to come today. That's right, 7 more best of 5s here, as Valencia is heating up for WCS. I am joined to my left-hand side by none other than Pig and Rotterdam. And so far what we've seen, Rotterdam, we saw Cyril performing well there with a 3-1 victory. I believe you were casting it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow. I can see you've really been taking a close eye.
Paying attention, me.
I can see that. No, it was a fun series, I think, to kick the day off with. I'm still kind of impressed by Cloudy. I really mean that. It was closer and more competitive than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be 3-0, very dominant performance by Cyril. And I'm not going to say that he was in a world of trouble, because he was always at least 1 map safe, and he was up, but it was closer than I thought it was going to be.
And then, of course, Pig joining us as well. We have a series to come up in just a few moments' time. PtitDrogo going up against True. Excited for this one?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting one. You know, Drogo, he's bringing some nice form. A lot of people were doubting him in the last few months. He's been training hard in Korea. And True, he's a madman. You know, he's crazy. He brings out all sorts of weirdness. You never know exactly what he's going to do, so I love it.
All right, so looking at how True is like in a position here in this tournament, a lot of people expected True on the foreign scene, on the global scene, I suppose, to always be attaining those highest of heights. He's only had his, I think it was a 3rd through 4th at Austin, but beyond that, wasn't able to do too much in Jönköping. What do you make of his current form coming into Valencia?
You know, I think it's something where it's very up in the air. There's been a lot of change recently with the map pool. We've seen players like Showtime suddenly struggling quite a bit. And I feel like there's a lot of players I have a big question mark on how they're going to perform on any given day. Because sometimes they will go into an online tournament and absolutely kill it. And I think especially when you look at the matchup between Drogo and True, you've really got the question of how solid is Drogo. Because whenever you're playing against True, True is aggressive and he's going to test you and he's going to look for holes in your play. I think it's the question of, you know, is the baguette rock solid or is the baguette a little bit soft, fresh out of the oven? True's going to mass a bunch of roaches and lings, run in and just tear it apart.
Only Pig would describe it like that.
Absolutely. And maybe Todd on a weird day, but probably not. What do you think, Rotterdam, coming into this matchup? What do you think PtitDrogo is on a good form?
I think Drogo looked excellent yesterday. He didn't just look great in his games, he also looked good on stage. He seemed very calm, he seemed very happy, it seemed like he was in a really good mood. And like I said yesterday, I think it really translated into his play. A happy Drogo seems to be playing really well. In my eyes, he's a pretty big favorite going into this series. But then again, with True, you never know. True did make it out of a pretty tough group, which was probably the weirdest group of the round of 32, where we had Probe, Optimus, Harstem, and True. And I really don't think I'm biased when I say we at least expected 1 Dutchie to make it out there. You know, on a great day, maybe both Optimus and Harstem could make it out. But Probe won that group, and then True in the decider just took care of Harstem 2-0. So you can't count True out, you never can. But I think if Drogo plays the same way as he did yesterday, I think he should win the series.
Let's have a quick update on the bracket, see what has been going on so far. Of course, we've only had 1 series, but we can keep you up to date as to how all the other games are going to be playing out down the line. We're going to be following things up with True and PtitDrogo in just a few moments' time. A lot of big matches. You mentioned Probe just before. He's in the bracket too, going up against Need. That's going to be a tall task.
Yeah, a little bit unfortunate for Probe taking that, you know, 1st seed. He has to play against Neeb because he came out 2nd of his group. So a little bit of that luck every now and then. A player has a fantastic, you know, path through the group stage. It backfires a little bit, but I think he's feeling really good here at this tournament. Making it the round of 16 is always great, and if he can make it through Neeb, that'll be a big one,
All right, well, we're ready to welcome our 2 players to the stage. Smix, how are you doing over there?
I'm doing great, James. Thanks for asking. You guys are killing it on the desk as always, so great job to you guys. But of course, really, really excited for this next match. It's going to be a PVZ. It's a match of champions as we have the victors of DreamHack Leipzig and WCS Summer going at each other. Please welcome it's PtitDrogo and True.
Correct indeed, as the handshakes are exchanged, and PtitDrogo, for a lot of people, I mean, including myself at the moment, is in a position where Protoss has had its struggles here and there, but PtitDrogo could quite easily take that mantle as the 2nd spot in Protossdom, considering that Showtime's having a bit of a rough time right now.
It's funny in a way that it seems like Drogo is doing better when Protoss is actually not on top. You know? When like more Protosses are struggling, that's when Drogo seems to thrive. I think one thing we have to mention as well is that this is a matchup between 2 players that were both at the WCS Global Finals last year. And right now they're within striking distance. True is currently at the cutoff seed. He's number 8 in the ranking. So I think it's safe to say that if True wants to go to those global playoffs, he really needs to secure a few more points here. This is already a decent result, but the quarterfinals or maybe even the semis, I think with the semis he's pretty much set.
Yeah.
But the quarterfinals would help him a lot. Drogo is currently in the 11th spot in the rankings. So it's still possible for Drogo as well. And a win here would be not only a big step here, but would be a big step towards those global finals at the end of the year.
Is Drogo's current form worthy of that kind of placement if he's to get to the top 8? Is he in a position where his current form could push him to that pick?
I think Drogo looked really promising yesterday. His games against Scarlet were quite flawless. I think Scarlet did play into his hands a little bit. You know, but it was interesting speaking to him because Drogo was saying, you know, he was having a bit of a tough time on Korean ladder, adjusting to the meta, the players there. He had a bit of that kind of shock when you go over to Korea and the players are just, you know, such hard practice. But he's come back from it. He's clearly a bit stronger now. And I think every day he progresses through this tournament, he gains a little bit more confidence. So if he can make it through True, I think he's just going to be even more confident tomorrow. And we could even see him make a semi-final or who knows, even a finals again.
Yeah, we've been talking a lot about his series against Scarlet, but he played another very strong Zerg in this tournament. He played Snoot in the second group stage, and he also beat Snoot 2-0. Snoot, who seems to be doing pretty good this tournament, because Snoot is also still in the playoffs. So it wasn't just Scarlet, he also beat Snoot. Now, of course, True does play very different than both Scarlet and Snoot, but Drogo is not a stranger. Like, anything that we say here on the desk, that's not something that Drogo doesn't know. He probably knows True even better.
Yeah.
So I really think it comes down to being on point, make sure that Zealot or Adept or whatever you have is actually on hold position and doesn't move out. Make sure you have a pylon on the edge of your base. And if you can see those link drops, the link floods, whatever it is, I really think that if Drogo can make it to the 6, 7, 8 minute mark every game where he's not behind, I think he can win. And I think he should win, actually.
All right, well, I'm being told and informed that the players are ready for our next best of 5. So without further ado, let's head over to Todd and Fear Dragon here for WCS Valencia.
Thank you so much, James. We're going to be heading into our next series. As he just said, it's going to be True versus Drogo. The first map is going to be Odyssey. Todd, how are you feeling about this?
I'm feeling good. PtitDrogo, like Roddy said, has been looking good in and out of game. He's been in good spirits. And I actually wonder if he's going to get tested here. I'm going to see what happens if True wins even a single map, because PtitDrogo is known as being an emotional player. And I'd love to see how he would react to a little bit of adversity here in this matchup. So hopefully he gets just that. And here we are, game number 1 on Odyssey.
All right, we're going to be starting up at the top left-hand corner of the map. The blue Zerg player from Storm Gaming. Give it up for True.
His opponent in the red, representing France and my insanity, it is PtitDrogo. I saw what you did there, by the way. You said Drogo, so you didn't have to say the first part of his nickname, and then you left me the intro. So you didn't have to say his nickname fully just yet, but I feel like you're gonna have to eventually, right?
Eventually? No, I
You can't run away from destiny. Say it.
So, Drogo has a really good PvZ right now. I mean, the desk did a great job talking about it. And I really like how Rotterdam actually put how I think this match is going to have to go for Drogo. It's going to be about fending off True's aggression. But it's worth noting, True also, in qualifying for Valencia itself, 3-0 Neeb. So I think he's a bit shaky sometimes. True's never really been the player that I think is hyper consistent. But he's got that potential.
And not only that, True also played an unusual style. He actually completely skipped on Banelinks and masked Hydralisks instead. I think it's because a lot of Protosses, they know that those Baneling, Hydralisk timings are gonna come, so what do? To make sure they can scout and they can later on force fields and have Guardian Shield, they get sentries. And if you get sentries and you're facing Hydralisk, it's literally one of the worst units against pure Hydralisk. There is gonna be that critical mass that comes into play that sentries are just gonna melt against and do absolutely nothing. The force fields are not gonna do anything either because the Hydralisk can shoot from that far. So that was a great adjustment that True made, to which I don't think Neeb reacted very well, and hopefully for Drogo, he's going to be fully aware of that possibility and maybe adjusting his own play to it, but usually he's the one that tries to set up the pace with his own kind of aggression, whether it's with Adepts, Oracles, or even anything. Charge loss early on are also an option, even though PtitDrogo plays a lot more standard more often than not.
Absolutely, and I think that really goes back into what the current meta oftentimes is in PvZ. I mean, we've seen it throughout this tournament. Hydroling Bane is the name of the game for a lot of Zerg players, but when you skip out on those Bane lanes, you can get that attack going just a little bit earlier, and it catches a lot of Pros players off guard because, one, you were saying their composition's not quite there, but even just not having that extra round of gateway units can really mess with the Protoss player.
What about the Protoss meta, though? Because I saw a couple blinking Dark Templars in your games in the Caspers tournament.
Well,
Where's that meta gone?
That's going to come out later when we see Haas. Those are the series that I'm really looking forward to.
Hopefully we will. I can see Laser. I'm sure Laser will be delighted.
There you go,
Opportunity, I get sniped.
Okay, well, we do have a Stargate coming out from Drogo. I feel like this is a pretty standard thing for most Pros players to do in the matchup these days. Just open up with, because you were talking about how Drogo really likes to play standard, right? Open up with 2 Oracles, sometimes you see a Phoenix.
I think Adepts and Oracles is the 2 units in the start on which PtitDrogo is going to rely on a lot. He's known for his micro. Usually behind this, he knows how to take a 3rd base, a 4th base at the right time, just taking straight into Storm, get a bunch of Immortals. As of late, I feel like a lot of Protosses, they've been doing it differently in terms of Immortals. There's been some Protosses that get them out of 1 Robo, and some that even makes the Robo on their 3rd base, sometimes even, and go for double Immortal production, which I also feel is very, very strong. So I wonder which it's going to be here for PtitDrogo. One thing you can almost be sure of is that once we hit that scenario, there is almost always going to be a War Prism across the map ready to do big Zealot Warpins to keep the Zerg back at home, while you basically try and max out and then hit the timing before Blue Rot, if that even comes into play. Because with True being one of the 2 players there, a lot of the time you're going to be getting much quicker games than that.
Absolutely. It is worth noting that Mothership Core are really heavily delayed, and this is a pretty typical thing for a lot of Pros players to do when they feel they can get away with the green if they're not going to be up against any kind of aggression. But just keep that in mind, maybe not for this game, but later games that may come into effect, because True, again, he loves getting aggressive, and I think if he keeps identifying this kind of stuff, he's definitely the kind of player who will say, well, you keep skipping your Mothership Core, I'm gonna punish you for this.
Yeah, he could definitely attack with more units earlier. In this case, though, he's getting +1 melee, so I get a feeling he might be going... Oh, that's 5 Overlords actually starting there. I was going to say, he's definitely going to get Banelings, but with True, I feel like you never really know. Lair now begins.
Yep.
That's a lot of Overlords here to get at once. Look at the lack of supply block. It's going to be fun.
That's actually the funny thing, is that he was getting so many Overlords, but it didn't seem like he was getting supply block. I guess he just saw the Phoenix and was maybe thinking he was going to lose a couple of them. He didn't get Overlord speed, so those Overlords going to have a hard time running away. The 2 Oracles come in and should be able to take out one of these Queens, may even be able to get a second one. There's no Spore Crawlers over here to back up these Queens. Drogo realizing this, is going to lose one of the Oracles.
He could have actually targeted the drones there. There is no Spore, even if those Queens, they would have killed one of the Oracles eventually, but he would have lost all the drones there. So I don't think that was worth it for PtitDrogo to trade 1 Oracle for a Queen like this, when he could have killed so many more drones and actually found himself ahead on the worker count. Look at this. It's now 59 to 55. He would actually have been ahead if he killed like 8.
True's probably going to be pretty happy with that, and behind this, he is making a few lings and getting up his lairs so he can maybe put on a little bit of aggression, deal with any Adepts or what have you, moving across the map, potentially the War Prism that he's going to be popping out pretty soon.
Straight into charge here, for PtitDrogo with the Templar Archives now on the way. If he hadn't taken the gases on the natural, PtitDrogo could have gone for even more gateways and then done a huge charge load all-in. But because he's going for Templar Archives like this, I think he's just going to be going straight into Storm. Making the War Prism this early is great because, like I said, you can have the threat of a big warping across the map. And then from there, it's just going to be Immortals usually made out of that 1 Robo. Nice threatening here from True, actually, canceling 2 of those very important pylons at the front.
Yeah, he is going to be able to get almost just around on some of those units. He gets 1 sentry very low on health, but Drogo's used quite a few Force Souls just to keep those units alive. These Lings, they're going to have an opportunity to move back in, and there just aren't that many Gateway units here, Tide.
Yeah, PtitDrogo mustn't lose patience here. You can't underestimate those links, dude. Look at how many
there's no force
links
fields.
there are.
And he gets a full surround, he's just gonna be able to clean up every single one of these gateway units. There's no pylons anywhere close by to Photon Overdrive. The Oracle is helping out a good bit. There's more lings inside the 3rd expansion.
Oh no! He's gonna lose so many probes there, 14 in total.
Oh, Mothership Core does flush an overcharge and pushes back the Lings, but 14 workers going down is a huge deal. The War Prism does escape out of there with half its health intact, but Hydra's running away from these Zealots. They're trying to kite away from him, waiting for the Lings to get involved, but Drone's being pulled off the line. It looks like just trying to hide them away from the Zealots. He loses 4 workers and a bit of mining time, but overall it looks like an okay defense.
Yeah, those last 2 fights, that was 14 walker kills to 4 walker kills, so True comes out really far ahead from there, and he can just crank out as many units as he wants and then go for an attack there. In a second, he's making a ton of Hydralisks, and we did have actually a complete skip once again on the Baneling Less, much like in his series against Neeb. He's just +1 missile about to finish here for True. Now, here's what the great thing about this. He can attack, lose his front line, and then as soon as he starts getting dicey for the Hydralisk, he pulls back and then regroups with the rest of the new Hydralisks that are gonna head across the map, which he might not even need. He just has so much there.
Oh my god, True just barreling on forward. The Archons have already been taken out. Even with the Lings gone, the Hydras are able to get on top of these Immortals. More Zealots are going to be warped in. Some more Hydras also reinforcing for True. Are they going to be enough? He's starting to push back the Zealots, but every second that PtitDrogo buys is going to allow him to get additional weapons of these Zealots to just tank on the front line.
Kiting is the name of the game here for True. He needs to pull back every single time these Zealots come in. Make sure they attack only just once. Those Immortals trying to get rid of as many of those Hydralisks as they can, but then once again here is going to be the Kiting.
Yeah, more and more of these Zealots just keep coming on in. The Kiting is great. It helps keep his Hydras alive, but it also buys time for Drogo to get out more Zealots. War Prism is also doing a nice job staying alive. Just being able to pick up those Immortals, keep them alive a little bit longer, is going to be one of Drogo's biggest saving graces. But Todd, look at the supply. He is almost 40
I'm looking Ravi.
ahead.
There is no overcharge here to help with this fight. PtitDrogo gonna go right for it here, and those Zealots, they tank for a little bit, but then as soon as they evaporate, the rest of the units are going to be very exposed, and it looks like True might have enough here to close things out in game 1.
Photon Overcharge not really being able to get involved inside the fight. The Zealots are finally cleaned up, and the Immortals are under attack now. The Hydras going to be able to clean these up. Even some Lings reinforcing to help deal with all those Zealots that Drogo has been holding on with. But as the last Immortal retreats back over the third, we're going to see the GG gets called. True taking game number 1. And wow, Todd, we came into this talking so much about how good Drogo's PvZ is, but True, not even really, I would say, getting crazy aggressive with like Ling drops or any of the other weird forms of aggression. It's just that Ling Hydra style that you were talking about, where he skips that Baneling Nest, really able to capitalize on that.
PtitDrogo, he gave us a cheeky smile there. Doesn't seem to be taking that one loss too personally. I think he fully realized that True did once again what he did recently against Neeb, and just kind of mass units on a lower walker count, and then just went all out on the attack, and it worked out this time. But I think PtitDrogo is definitely should focus maybe a bit more on the defense. It's funny because I talk about this Prism as if it was like the ultimate thing, and a lot of the time it is. I think a Prism across the map, but if you think about what True is doing, I don't think a War Prism is actually that useful. You might just need to get a bunch of Immortals, stay on your side of the map, and focus on the defense, in which case he might actually not attack, and then it becomes a completely different game. But, I mean, that counter-attack with the Zealots just didn't do enough. Usually you hope that the Zerg's gonna fall apart, be too busy with looking across the map, and then loses a ton of drones. That was not true. He just lost 4 drones right there, and I mean, that's nothing in the immortal words of Maynard.
That, in fact, was true, Todd. It's true. Able to defend against that Zealot harassment, and we are going to be moving on to game number 2. Map
And
is
from dad jokes, hopefully.
Well, Proxima Station is going to be map number 2. Todd, this is, again, I always like to talk about the long history that this has had in Protoss versus Zerg, where we saw the Protosses really love that kind of Golden Armada style, getting out a lot of the carriers, going into crazy late game style games versus Zergs. But I feel like that kind of faded out for a little bit, came back a little bit. Where do you feel like it's at now?
Sequencer, I guess. That's the only map where you're going to see the Golden Armada come into play a lot of the time. Zergs have gotten really good against it. At this point, I just don't feel like it's that strong anymore, and especially True, like he likes to mass Hydralisk and attack, like unless you want to die, you should be going quickly for carriers against this guy.
All right, well, we're hopping into Proxima Station, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. We are gonna see who can take game number 2 as we start down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, top of the blue. Zerg player from Storm Gaming. Give it up for True. And And spawning up here in the top right-hand corner of the map, we have the red Protoss player from MYI. Give it up for PtitDrogo.
PtitDrogo.
You got me. You got me. I got baited.
It's okay. Only French people can say that right. True opening with the hatchery first here on the low grounds. Gonna be starting to work on that crisp spread ASAP. There's tricky stuff that you can do here because of that whole situation where you take that outer base first. But it's not really necessary for True. I feel like he's just been so successful with his style of mass Hydralisk and skipping the bailing nest. And most players don't adjust super well to it just yet. So I'm really curious here to see if PtitDrogo is gonna make the right adjustments. Maybe skip the War Prism, get even maybe double Robo, more Immortals early on. Because if you hold these first attacks, in particular like that first one that hits very strong, I think you're in a great position from there to take an easy win. On this map though, I feel like it's gonna be harder for True to pull this off because the third base of Protoss, you can protect very well with an arc of pylons.
Well, it's really, I think, also important to note that in that last game, one of the big moments that came down to was when True came in with all those links, catching Drogo's army between the natural and the third. There's no photon overcharges available. There's no supers, like, great defenses, so he had to blow all of his force fields early on.
I'm not sure what he was looking. I think he was all the way down looking at his army and didn't see the links up there.
Yeah,
so even Mothership Core came down.
I feel like on Proxima, it's a lot harder to kind of get, I want to say lucky with that a little bit as True, because your opponent is really just going to be defending in one particular location. You don't have to be spread out as much between all the different bases.
I'm curious, actually. Are we going to see PtitDrogo maybe open with, I was going to say Twilight Council and then a War Prism and Dark Templars being warped in across the map. It's one opener that I feel like he's one of the best at. When I see him do that build, there were a couple games where he looked so flawless. He even did it a couple times with double Prism. So I would love to see that out of him.
That was a very strange point in the meta when we started seeing just, well, you know, this really worked well with 2 Archons. What if we had 4 Archons, Todd? What if we had 2? What if we had 6? I think I actually saw that. Hearthstone showed me that one.
I'm signing up for the next challenge.
All right. Well, Overlord in the main base is going to scout out the Twilight Council. Now, this isn't going to be too huge of a surprise, but does know now that doesn't have to worry about any of the Stargate plays. You can delay those Spore Crawlers for a little bit. Although, if you look back at that last game, True actually really delayed the Spore Crawlers. Didn't even have them in time for the Oracle, so.
Oh, he should have canceled that. There was no links. He could have killed some more drones, maybe for some spores. Dark Shrine is now going to start. Drogo was a little bit short on gas here for a second. And I'm pretty sure we're going to be seeing a third base starting ASAP. Lair already now starts for True, who's fully aware it could be a Dark Shrine, so he's going to basically rush to Overseer and try and skip spores, I believe, is what this is.
Yeah, one of the best things that this build does from Drogo is that it keeps the Zerg player at home defending for a really long time, where True, again, we've always talked about he likes to be the aggressor, he likes to be the one putting on the pressure, testing and poking at his opponent's defenses, but this really allows Drogo to keep True back at home, saying, no, you have to deal with these Archons.
And one more thing, what's usually the best way to deal with Dark Templars or Archons? That's Roaches. What unit does True hate to make? Well, Banelings kind of, but also Roaches. He loves to skip those Roaches and go straight into his Hydralisk. Hydralisk is the one unit that he loves with his Queen, so if you skip Roaches and then you have to face this build, it can still be really hard to take on with just Queens and Links in the first place. Obviously, he's going to get Hydralisks later, but that first DT attack that's going to come. And keep in mind, PtitDrogo is on 4 gateways. That's going to be 4 Dark Templars here hitting in a second.
Yeah, and I love the fact that True even already has the single Overseer out, so he didn't even make Spore Crawlers. He says, I got the Overseer. I don't need any Spore Crawlers, but the one thing I've learned about DTs, Todd, is that they still do damage even after you detect them. And this is actually a hard lesson for True to always learn, and every Zerg player out there.
Where did PtitDrogo live? Oh, he was still doing fine. He lost a couple of shields. It was like, where are your Roaches, brah? And then, okay, no, he's just going to go for Archons and then try to harass them. Actually, I hope for PtitDrogo he doesn't mistime those Hydralisks, because they're going to come into play very quickly. Like, he did see an Overseer, so he should know that Lair's already finished. But to be able to tell that Zerg immediately started a Hydralisk den and has a couple on the way here, you don't want to lose that Prism with those units across the map.
Oh, well, Archons are doing a really nice job cleaning up a ton of these Lings and really pushing True back. But like you said, those Hydras are about to pop out in a matter of seconds. And, well, there's only one Hydra popping out of the third, but...
You want some 2 Overseer? There you go. Lynx are gonna fall as well. One more Queen perhaps before getting out, and PtitDrogo now knows it's just Hydra Tech as anticipated. Units lost tab. He's killed a whole lot, 37 units and has lost 0, not bad.
Perfect game. Infinitely ahead, you might say, in terms of units lost. That's how math
Infinitely.
Infinitely. But
literally.
Templar Archives is on the way for Drogo. He's going to be getting up into that charge upgrade as well. So going to that same style as he wanted to go to into the last game, those Zealots, I mean, we saw how effective they are.
Yeah.
If you don't have those Banelings, and this is something that with True in the last game, he got really aggressive off the Lings and Hydras. He didn't end up going to the Banelings. But in this situation, Todd, would you like to see that Baneling nest? Because it feels like a bit of a different kind of opening.
I mean, it feels like True fell behind quite a bit here with that opener, so he might have to just go for it with just pure Hydralisk. But he starts a Spire. And actually from PtitDrogo, I was wondering, because when Neeb faced this, I think he was kind of being forced into making a lot of Archons and never really went for Storm. Whereas I thought, like, if he somehow bought time and then reached Storm, he would have done really well against this mass Hydralisk and Lynx without Banelings. But because PtitDrogo opened with the Dark Shrine, he probably felt compelled that he needed to make a lot of Archons in the first place. So now Storm would be very late. He still hasn't started there. And he still went for a Prism across the map. That's how confident he is right now, that he will pull off the defense if he was to be counter-attacked. And that's also thanks to this pylon setup that I mentioned earlier. You know, you can set up a real good arc here on this map around the third base. That's going to help a lot with the overcharges.
Okay, Hallucinating Phoenix does come out. We're going to want to keep an eye on that to see if Drogo scouts out that Spire, because if he gets caught off guard by that, he's really only going to have the Archons help defend against the Mutas. And
he talked about this, though. There were a couple games where me and Roddy talked about how if he had faced Mutas, he would have been in trouble.
Yeah.
And PtitDrogo actually, I don't know if he listened to those casts, but he was like, casters should stop saying like it would be dramatic if there were Mutas, because then I could defend very easily with Prism and Archons. Just fly around, chase those away, and then maybe even go for an attack and just end it. Like he seemed to say that he was basically going to be fine against Mutas, so I guess we'll see, because he sounded full of confidence when he talked about that scenario here in the past.
Okay, Drogo. Your honor is on the line now. Your word is on the line. We'll see how good the defense is going to be. He's making more Archons, which is going to make things a little bit better. Of course, Mothership Core with Photon Overcharge going to help defend the main and the natural expansion against any of those Mutas that dart their way in. But if you have enough Mutas, you can actually do a surprising amount of damage. Ooh, Warp Prism going to be popping out, but the Mutas are here to greet him. This is going to be the first reveal for Drogo for the Mutalist, but it also means that these Zealots and the Warp Prism should get cleaned up pretty quick. Oh, there's no Spore Core with the fourth. That actually is going to be some troublesome harassment to deal with.
Yeah. 5 drones dying, 6 now, and even more to come here. That one Dark Templar going crazy here on the 4th base. And in the meantime, it's allowing Drogo to head across the map with the supply lead right now. He's looking great in this game. He knows he's facing Mutas, so he knows that his army is going to be even stronger, because then there's going to be other useful units for a fight missing for True, who then would love to go for some sort of base trade, not a head-on fight here.
Yeah, I mean...
Where's the Overseers? That guy's been there for like 5 minutes.
He has one Overseer, but I think he went over to the 4th expansion to help defend. He didn't get... Did he not get Overlord speed? Oh, God, that makes the Overseer so slow. But this is such a great move from Drogo, because the Mutas are great at harassing. They're great at buying time. They do not want to be engaging directly against this many Archons, Todd.
Okay, the Mutas actually going to go for a counter-attack. I think PtitDrogo is just going to A-move the base of True here in a second.
I feel like that A-move brought him all the way up to the north side, chasing after those Hydras, though. Actually kind of buying True some time. He's going to be able to turn this into a really weird situation. He can maybe neuter the Verdict's base economy and then go back home to defend.
That's 23 Mutalisk. I like what Drogo's doing. He's going to fortify his main base as the one that he's going to try to defend here with the overcharges plus some cannons. And in the meantime, PtitDrogo is going to go for the head-on base trade, where True doesn't have that much on the ground back at home. He has almost nothing.
Yeah, he
sent everything across the map, and that's just a couple of Hydralisks.
Oh, this is definitely going to get weird. I mean, the Mutas are hyper-mobile units, but they have to be so careful against the Archons. Mothership Core still laying out a couple of those Photon Overcharges, taking out some of those remaining Hydras. Photon cans going up in mass, because I think Drogo knows it's all about just trading as cost-efficiently as possible. I love the Changeling Wall, by the way, Todd. It prevents the Archons from getting on top of these Hydras.
This is a full-on base trade. I think True is going to try to eliminate PtitDrogo there, and PtitDrogo will be doing the same thing.
Wait, does True have any drones out on the map? This is actually a huge deal.
I can't find any.
Because if he doesn't have anything, then he is most certainly going to have a lot more buildings to work through. Mutas don't do damage very quickly to buildings, as opposed to these Immortals, these Archons, all of these units for Drogo are going to be able to do so much damage to these buildings.
Yeah, there's no drone across the map.
Oh, man, they're getting chased down by charge loss. They will
he left with a few.
Oh
my God, if you could start a hatchery He's actually super rich here, it's true.
Oh.
He needs to rejoin these drones with his mutas here, because the Zealots, they're gonna go to work. And actually, all the drones die here.
There's one drone left out on the map. Where is it?
On the natural.
Oh god, it's trapped in the natural. I mean, do you run away with that drone? What do you do?
It's trapped in a closet.
Okay.
It's pocket expansion.
Mutas are able to do a substantial amount of damage on the other side of the map. There's only 3 workers left over for Drogo, but 1 worker left over for Drogo. He has enough for a Nexus as well.
Yeah, I don't think PtitDrogo should lose this here unless he really messes up and lets True somehow eliminate him, but I don't think that's going to be happening. PtitDrogo coming back here to try and defend this. He's got Zealots on the ground to get rid of those Hydralisks and Lynx, and he's going to be setting up the Archons on the right-hand side to defend his Nexus, and that should just be it.
Yeah, Drogo's actually, I guess he doesn't necessarily know how many drones True has. I mean, we have the infinite vision here, Todd. We can see, you know what, True only has those last 2 buildings left, but Drogo's playing it very safe and very slow and saying, okay, I'm going to just take out 1 building at a time. True's best option may be to go back and kill off that Immortal and try and play with the fact that Drogo doesn't know.
True has a Spire left and he's bleeding out.
Oh, he doesn't.
That's it.
He's on a timer.
He has nothing else, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think he knows it. I think he's going to go for it. It's crazy because if he had had a couple of hidden buildings on the map, especially like some that he could cover with his Mutas, there is only 6 Archons and 1 Stalker. He could have flown in, killed one of the Archons after 2 volleys of Mutas, gotten out, and then done the same thing over and over with the Mutas regenerating hit points super fast. But now he's in a situation where there's literally, what is it, the sand thing that you flip around called? That's where that counts time.
A timer?
Yeah, a timer where, like, you know, sand goes through it. That's his Spire.
Hourglass and Hourglass, yes.
That's his Spire. That's literally what this is right now.
It's nice and
it's bleeding out.
Yep.
Sand.
Well, okay, Hallucinating Phoenix keeping an eye on where those Mutas are as he knows that they're no longer killing off those buildings in the north side on the,
He's revealed. There goes the 3 Immortal squads.
Oh, man. Immortals are not going to
left.
allow this Hourglass to have a whole lot of time left. He's going to crack it open and the sand's going to come flowing out as Drogo is going to take game number 2. Well done by Drogo, tying up the series 1-1 in a bit of a crazy base trade. But you know what, Drogo gave casters a little bit of a hassle in terms of saying, you know what, no, the Mutas are not that big of a deal. And apparently, he's actually okay. I mean, I will say,
well, it was pretty close.
It looked a little bit scary.
Yeah, I really feel like if True somehow had a couple more drones out on the map, this could have been a very different story because there were not many buildings left here for PtitDrogo, and it's not like he had like 10 Stalkers either. That was 1 single Stalker and 6 Archons.
And there were a lot of Mutas. This really was, even with the Archons there, this wasn't exactly an army that Drogo could easily split up and not just have picked off by the Mutas. Even if he was sending Zealots around the map, trying to scout out for those hatcheries, the Mutas could have easily been able to take care of a lot of those individual units. So that really could have gotten very dicey. If True had just been able to get out 1 drone, just 1 drone could have made a great difference. But we are going to be heading over to the desk for a little bit of high-level analysis. Take it away.
That's right. And game number 2 concludes here. PtitDrogo is able to even things up. For True in that first game, he was able to do very well, Roddy.
Yeah, he was, but we can take a look at the mineral count here. 1,400 minerals in the bank, 700 gas as well. I mean, you gotta give some credit for True there for being annoying with those links. As long as you play against a Zerg that's always lurking around, always running around with links, whether or not he commits, it takes your attention away from the actual build you want to do, and you're like, what is he doing with these links? What is he doing with his links?
Yeah.
And this is one of the reasons why Drogo was slipping up a little bit. Eventually he got surrounded, just didn't spend his money, then went for some sort of an attack, but had way too much money in the bank and lost units at home. So it just didn't really work out. Game number 2, I want to say, was a lot better, except for the ending. That game should have been like 3 minutes shorter than it actually was.
Right.
Other than that, that looked pretty good what Drogo did there on
If you're going to do that on a map like Proxima or on any map in general, Pig, I suppose you, as the Zerg, have to have the insurance policy of having drones out on the map to try and prolong how that's going to go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that situation escalated so quickly. It's something where both players were very late to try and get workers out on the map. You know, neither Drogo luckily got that single probe down to build that Nexi. But I mean, you can kind of cast your mind back to earlier in that game, and I think the big mistake happened when True couldn't get detection up for that DT.
Yeah.
You know, there's this thing where you think these Mutas, if they can get across the map without being spotted, get into a mineral line, Drogo's in massive trouble. But his Warp Prism comes in right as the Mutas are popping, so he's like, okay, I've got warning. and he's a Dark Templar, and there's no Overlords nearby. He's got to bring an Overseer all the way up from his front base. He lost like 20 drones there, lots of mining time. The Mutas had to hang around the whole time. It just gave Drogo such an advantage. So I think Drogo got a little bit lucky there, but he definitely played it very well.
I totally agree. I think those Mutas should have dived on the Prism immediately rather than shooting at Zealots one by one that were spreading out through the base like a plague, like a Protoss plague. And then there is a Warp Prism just chilling there. It's like, I don't see a spore. Let's warp in a DT. Like, that's not supposed to happen. There were like 12 Mutas out. You know, normally Warp Prism flies in, it's like rough, one shot, you know.
Man.
It's supposed to be like hot out of the air immediately. And that one Dark Templar in the main and then that one DT at the fort, they bought like a solid 40, 50 seconds for Drogo. Enough time to get a new Prism, enough time to get to the other side of the map, enough time to get like 5 Archons, which obviously you can't fight anymore with the Mutas. And yeah, then we had a kind of awkward base trade with 0 drones out on the map. So.
All right, well, thank you very much, guys. Time for game number 3 now as we head back to Fear Dragon and Todd here for WCS Valencia.
Thank you very much, James. Here we go. Hopping into game number 3. It's going to be on Sequencer. Todd, after a game like that, I mean, you talked about how Drogo's a bit of an emotional player, and he lost game number 1, but he still had a bit of a cheeky smile on his face. Game number 2, he's able to bring it back. How do you think he's going to be feeling coming into this?
He's going to be feeling great. He kept his composure and really delivered in that game 2. But we're not all tied up. Game number 3 is going to be on Sequencer, and starting in the top right-hand side of the map, playing as the Blue Zerg, it is Psystorm's True.
And down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, we have the red Protoss player from MYI. It's PtitDrogo.
Not bad, not bad. Gonna be opening with a gateway down the ramp, then followed up by a scout. Now, if you think about True's style of getting Hydralisk and then getting into his opponent's face and attacking a lot, this is definitely gonna be one of the other maps to pull this off on, just because it's a longer rush distance than on most other maps. And also, I mean, I guess it depends which third base PtitDrogo takes, but if you know that you're against somebody as aggressive as True, you might be taking the safe third base, which only has 1 gas. So even though he has only 1 more gas, then you'd still be safer than if you took the other one, which is on the right-hand side of his natural. And the quick scout here, full respect from PtitDrogo, fully wanting to know exactly what opener he's facing here against True.
Yeah, True is the kind of player who, not even just in game 3, but even in an ace match of a series, he will not be afraid to bust out the early pull and really put on the aggression. But like you were saying, yeah, that third base is going to be one of the biggest pinpoints of this map and determining how things are going to play out. Where does Drogo decide to take it? I'd be very surprised if True decides to go for anything other than the low ground third expansion, which is the one that has both gas geysers. Not really a lot of reason not to.
I hope we see a fleet beacon here actually eventually on this map. I think that'd be cool, but True is just such an aggressive player, generally speaking, even if it's not necessarily, you know, I don't want to say yell-ins like all the time or something like that. I don't misinterpret me.
You're always afraid of it.
Yeah, exactly. Like whether it's on 3 or 4 bases, he's gonna be hitting timings eventually. He's not one of those Zergs that, you know, will sit back, will be super happy to go into hive tech, even though he's also capable of that. He's shown in the past that his macro is very underrated. But if you had to compare it to somebody like Cyril, it's almost like night and day. You know, like Cyril just loves going to hives and kind of take things a little bit slower, even though as of late he's definitely been playing a lot more aggressive himself.
Yeah, absolutely.
PtitDrogo is actually on the roll so far against Zerg this tournament, beating Scarlet and Snoot. He's taking all the best Zergs out there. Right now he's 1-1 against True, and guess what? If he won, he would get the ultimate test of them all with Cyril in the next round.
Oh, that will be a very, very fun one. We'll see if that ends up happening. Stargate is going to be coming out for Drogo. This is a really nice map for Stargate for exactly the reasons you were talking about earlier. It's a very big map, and just in general, those Stargate units, very nimble, mobile units, can really put on the aggression and still have time to come back home, help defend if need be. But Evolution Chamber coming out relatively early on for True.
Maybe some drop in the works there. If we look at the Overlord placement of True, he has his second Overlord placed right above the ledge over there. He's scanning the main now, confirming that it's target, but if you wanted to go for a drop here, it's very hard to have a pylon in range to shoot. You just have so much space to cover between the natural and third base here of PtitDrogo.
I'm also a bit surprised, True going for the in-base safer third expansion. Maybe a little bit concerned about some forms of aggression, or maybe just kind of hiding the third a little bit more, but I guess
Yeah, Hydralisks don't cost that much gas, right? And if you skip Banes, then...
That's true. Well, Overlord is going to get taken out over here, but I like the fact that Drogo has that pylon by the rocks. We have a drop Overlord being made, I think, just outside of the vision range of that pylon. The pylon may be able to see some of those lings, though, if he's paying attention.
Yeah, I think PtitDrogo should be aware this is coming. He needs to get ready with units. Those links are going to go straight into the main, and there should be more links to attack the wall.
Oh, there's
but
no
actually,
Mothership Core, though. He skipped it again.
Drogo is that confident, man. He's just going to send his couple units that he's got there towards the main base to defend this. Even the Oracle coming to help here. And so far, not a single probe has died. But this has kept the second Oracle back at home for PtitDrogo. The third Oracle is like an overseer, overlooking the third base, making sure nobody's mining. And then now finally he's going to get to work.
Yeah, should be able to get them, but actually going after the Queen. This is a weird fight to be taking. I think that he may have just lost track of the Oracle. He's going to end up losing it. Oh, it was a really nice situation there after getting such an immaculate defense, but losing the Oracle, I kind of feel like things start to bounce out a bit more.
Yeah, that was a little bit sloppy. I like the defense from PtitDrogo, but he wasn't paying attention to his Oracle. Sometimes you shouldn't be trying to be doing stuff in too many places at once, Ravi. I've heard that we're meant to be, us human, terrible multitaskers. But hopefully in StarCraft we can improve, because you definitely need to multitask in there, but yeah, if you try to do stuff, 3 things at once, sometimes there's going to be one of them that's not going to go well. And in this case, that was the Oracle across the map.
Costly mistake, but second Oracle, unfortunately, it doesn't have that much energy. It's going to activate the Pulsar Beam, but it can only activate it for so long. The Queen's also going to be able to force it back, and doesn't have any energy for Revelations, can't get into the main base and scout out the layer timing, see the Evolution Chamber researching +1 range or anything else of the sort. So he doesn't necessarily know the exact timing of when those Hydras are going to be popping, but he at least keeps the Oracle alive, so we'll be able to move back in a bit later on.
And again, a Prism on the way here for PtitDrogo. It looks as if True will be playing the same style as we saw before, with just mass links into Hydras. Look, he's already cutting drones. That's 59 walkers. He just made a huge batch of links. And the next Lavas might be for just a ton of Hydralisks, because right now, he's going to start saving up a bunch. So we'll see if True starts more drones, or if he just makes units, which would be a huge commitment. Not quite an all-in, because he's already on 3 bases and well saturated, but it would have to do damage for sure.
Yeah, Drogo not keeping his units between the third and the natural expansion this game.
Whoa, that was clean.
Yeah, good force fields do keep things out, but there's still a lot of lings left over. He needs to get those gateways finished up. He needs to get some zealots out as the frontline buffer, because he just does not have force field energy anymore.
Yeah, PtitDrogo actually made a lot of gateways. L'explosion des gates in his main base, as Roddy would say, trying to quote me.
But an overcharge is going to be able to force those lings back. Not a favorable trade. And finally, we see that Templar Archives going up right around the same time. The charge and charge is going to be finishing up. +1 weapons, pretty close to finishing.
Up to 8 gateways in total, 66 probes to 59 drones. And yeah, this is just a massive commitment here from True.
Nice round on those Zealots. Going to be able to take those out relatively cost efficiently. Even going to be able to snag an Adept, potentially a Sentry over here. And there's not enough energy for any more fucking overcharges.
This is bad. PtitDrogo needs to get a ton of units, and he needs to get them right now. He's making another Phoenix.
It looks like he spent a lot of his warpins on the other side of the map, going after that 4th expansion. True, very slow to react with any units, because he's just been rallying them across the map. The Hydras do come here in time to help take care of some of the Zealots, but the Hatchery definitely gets pretty low in health. That Warp Prism still being active. Can look up for that as a target for later on.
And I think PtitDrogo must be starting to realize what's happening there. He starts Storm. He saw that there was no saturation whatsoever on that 4th base of True. He knows that a lot of units are going to be headed his way. Look at the army supply here. PtitDrogo is so far behind, 42 to 96. It's going to be almost unholdable. He would need Storm, but I don't think he's going to get it on time.
Oh, man. He needs to realize that this is also happening, because he would be making Archons if he knew. Unless he really felt so confident that he could just hold this off with what little units he has. But now he sees that the Phoenix suicides in. The High Templars going to be running for their lives, trying to buy some time for Storm to get a Fortune Overcharge. Going to be buying a little bit of time, but oh, man, some of the High Templars already getting picked off. 1 Archon being made. This is just way too many units over here, Todd.
And PtitDrogo with a huge sigh here of disappointment. GG gets called. And he gets, I want to say, surprised once again here by the style of True that we've seen times and times over.
Yeah.
PtitDrogo is playing against True like True is a standard player, and True he's not your typical Zerg. No, he plays very differently.
We have not seen a single Baneling made this entire series so far, Todd. I completely agree. Against a typical Zerg player, you feel like, yeah, I have a little bit more time. They have to invest a bit more gas. They have to spend maybe an extra 20, 30 seconds morphing in those Banelings, and then they finally rally their units together and move in.
It feels like it's easy to speak, right? We see all the numbers, we see everything, and like we're just the commentators at the end of the day. But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, well, just don't get a Prism, make Immortals, go straight into Storm, get a bunch of Zealots at home and High Templars, Storm completes, profit.
Yeah, I mean, that is potentially one way he could make the adjustments, but it's always also one of those things. I mean, you are a former competitor, or should I say a current competitor, having won the Caster Invitational.
The occasional backseat gaming.
But I mean, you always know, I'm sure, that when you have your kind of standard build and way to play, making big adjustments that really take you off and deviate too much from your kind of standard build, it can definitely get into a bit of a gray territory, right? Where you may not be as comfortable in that kind of zone. So I wonder if he just feels that way.
At the end of the day, StarCraft 2, like you need to adapt to your opponent quite a bit.
It's a strategy game, Todd.
Yeah, exactly. Unless you want to be the one setting up the pace, but it's not like PtitDrogo is doing timings that True then needs to react himself, right? True's the one. Aside from the early game, or actually even in the early game, he was the aggressor. True's the one going for the one attack every single time. So I feel like it's for PtitDrogo to react to it properly, which I don't think he's been doing in the 2 games that he lost there.
Yeah, I mean, he dealt pretty well with, I would say, the kind of adjustment that True made in that game. Sequencer, a really nice map for those Overlord drops. I'm sure that Drogo has a lot of experience dealing with them on that map. But we hop into Abyssal Reef, which typically I think a lot of Pros players feel a little bit more comfortable on. We'll see if Drogo can even up the series on this particular map. Why do you generally think that Pros players feel pretty good on this map?
Because it's easier to take a 3rd, 4th, and in this case even 5th base. And usually that's what all Protosses care about. Being able to take more expansions, getting closer to maxing out, which obviously means the same thing for Zerg. You know, Zerg can very easily go on up to 5 bases, defend more easily against War Prisms with static defense and their units. And usually on this map, that means going to Broodlords eventually. But again, we have such a different Zerg here in True that we might not even see a single Baneling and Broodlord here in this whole series.
Well, we're going to find out as we start down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map. We have the blue Zerg player setting up 2-1. Give it up for Psystorm Gaming's True.
His opponent in the reds, in the northwest, playing Protoss. It is PtitDrogo.
The last European Protoss left in the tournament. Rough life for Protoss. I mean, we got actually a really diverse cast in terms of Protoss left in the tournament. I mean, Cloudy, of course, now knocked out, but we had a Chinese Protoss, we had a French Protoss, we had a Taiwanese Protoss, we had an American and Australian Protoss.
Sounds like an expensive world tour to me.
Well,
PtitDrogo, the one game he had success in earlier was with the Dark Shrine opener. So I wonder if he might just go back to this here on Abyssal. That'd be definitely a very viable build. Again, you can take a 3rd pretty easily here on this map. And even defending the 4th is going to be easier. Like, it's one of those maps that is usually favored by Protosses and have been around for a long time. So it just seems so much easier, personally, I would say, to take those bases, secure them, and then do well in the later stages of the game. And I've questioned the lack of adapting here of PtitDrogo. I wonder if PtitDrogo like did well in those earlier stages and then defended the timing of True. Will True make proper adjustments to then go into the later stages of the game? And hopefully we get that answered here on this map.
Yeah, that's going to be a really good question. I definitely agree also with the kind of DT drops being the most successful kind of harassment and attacking that he's had in this entire series so far. So we'll see what he ends up doing. This probe being really annoying, actually getting some of these drones legitimately low on health. Might not seem like a big deal, but when you come back in with that Adept later on, those drones that are a little bit lower on health can actually sometimes get target fired down by a single Adept attack instead of 2.
When I do that, I lose my probe every time, Ravi. What's a man gonna do?
Got to go back here to Wings of Liberty, watch some of those Huck replays.
Oh yeah, the heart on the natural base before making it.
So much micro potential there. Well, okay. do have natural expansion wall up going up for Drogo. This is definitely one of the maps where walling off can get a little bit funky, and because of that, I would say that this map, when you get into those Ling Hydra attacks, it really can get a bit dicey for a Protoss player that just gets caught in the wrong position defending, because this isn't like Proxima. This isn't like Sequencer where you can just defend one location, defending 3 of your bases. You have to kind of really position your army appropriately for where your opponent is attacking.
You know, I mentioned like how we can, judge the players and like say what they could do better, but again, like we see everything, and I feel like in the previous game, one thing that True did that didn't seem like it was a big deal at first. By the way, nice defense here, saves the one drone. Was going for the link drop, because even though that link drop didn't achieve much, the one thing that it achieved that's like almost invisible is that it prevented PtitDrogo from being across the map and doing well. And then remember what happened? He lost the Oracle. Would that have happened if there hadn't been a link drop? Probably not, because then PtitDrogo would have been looking at his Oracle and then microing it properly.
It really reminds me a lot of how a lot of Terran players tend to think about things. They're doing drops, and sometimes the damage that you're trying to do is not necessarily directly done by the drop itself. Sometimes you can lose the drop, you don't actually get too much done, but it brings your opponent out of position and forces their focus to go to the wrong part of the map at the wrong time, and that's when you capitalize somewhere else. I mean, again, it's almost like the bait and switch. Try and bait someone over to one place, and you come in with a 1-2 punch.
Yeah, man, that's why I say StarCraft 2 is a real-time strategy chess in 3D and high speed.
I mean, StarCraft is a giant metaphor for life, if anything, Todd. But Oracle coming in over here and ending a couple of lives. 3 drones go down. Already a little bit more successful than Drogo's Oracle last game.
Yeah, Glaze on the way behind this.
This is an adjustment.
Yeah. Again, like what's great against pure Hydralisks and no Banelings? Or rather, better question, why did Zerg start making a ton of Banelings? Well, actually, that's because they got buffed and were a whole lot better, but also because they're very good against Adepts. If your opponent is not getting Banelings, then if you go for Adepts, you might be able to do super well against just pure Hydralisks. But in this case, there are Links already in position here back at home. Couple drones are going to be sniped by this anyway.
All right, well, Adepts are going to both end up falling. The Oracle comes in, but Stasis Trap going up, but it's not going to finish in time. Snipe gets off, and True cleans up most of the forms of aggression that Drogo has on the other side of the map. Now, Todd, what do you... So, okay, I'm going to ask you what you make of this, because I've seen a lot of True's games, and True really loves dropping queens inside of its opponent's side of the map, and it's a weird thing to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, it can get scary. Like, it's funny because PtitDrogo, that's finally the one game where he's trying to adjust to what True's been doing, which is my side race. But this time around, he's going to be facing Links plus Queens. And only now is the Mothership Core being made. I feel like the Mothership Core is one of the most important things to have early if you want to defend this with multiple overcharge. Adepts are going to get surrounded here. He's going to try to shade away, but PtitDrogo is going to be losing a lot of these before the attack even comes here. And he's going to need more army ASAP. Look at the army supply. That's 10 to 44, and there is so many Queens flying across the map inside of those overlords right now, Fear Dragon.
Drogo is in a world of trouble. Mothership Core is popping out now, and it's going to have one Fudge and Overcharge available. There's only one pylon really to effectively Fudge and Overcharge. I like that Drogo's trying to do some counter damage on the other side of the map, try and pull True's just attention somewhere else, but the transfuses are still on point. Pylon that was Fudge and Overcharge gets taken out, and the Adepts are still doing some damage inside the natural expansion, but not enough.
The third base is forfeit, and PtitDrogo, he needs to get units on his natural. He's actually not that bad at all. He's actually ahead if he can save this natural without taking too much damage there, but that's going to be almost mission impossible because he has almost no army. He's getting 3 more gates, but he has almost no units there. It's just 3 Zealots and 1 Stalker. He needs to remake the Mothership Core, but he cannot come out early enough here.
Artos' pylon bringing 3 of the gateways down. There are a couple more pylons trying to go up right now, but the Queens are fighting against the probes. They're starting to go down, and as soon as these Lings get involved, it's going to become a very, very difficult defense for Drogo. Mothership Core getting very low on health, but the Queens are starting to die. Only 8 or 9 workers have gone down so far, but here come the Lings.
There were so many probes here for PtitDrogo, so he might as well lose some of those if he can hold, but no, True just has too much, and he will move on to the next round where we'll be facing Cyril. PtitDrogo goes out of the tournament.
Wow, look at that big old grin from True. We're going to be hopping over to the main stage with Sue in just a moment for the interview with Smix, of course, but gotta say, True, gotta be feeling really, really good about how that went. I mean, Drogo, we kept talking about how good his PvZ was, but now that you take someone like him out, that's just going to give you more and more of a confidence boost as he moves on to the next match.
Absolutely, and true. That was a very important point too here. On his WCS Circuit standings points, he was in 8th place, so he needs more points, and it's looking pretty good here so far. Let's go and hear from the man himself who's on the stage with Mix.
Thank you very much, Todd. Congratulations, Drew. You're moving on to the round of 8. And after WCS Jönköping didn't work out so well for you, it must feel even better to redeem yourself here and move on to the quarterfinals in Valencia here. 지난 연슈핑 대회에서는 잘 못했었잖아요. 그래서 이번에 8강 진출한 게 그만큼 더 기분 좋을 것 같은데 실제로 어떤가요?
This tournament is very important for me because I need a WCS point, and last tournament I lost to Scarlett 2 times because I think when I was young, my mom said, "Don't win against the girl." So I guess I lost.
Well, here you were up against a guy, so maybe that's why you won. But let's talk about the series a little bit because you were up against Drogo, who's known for having really, really good PvZ. In fact, in the group stage, he took down Scarlett 2-0. So when it came to preparing against Drogo, did you do anything special there?
Yeah, he is pretty good, but I always confidence against him. So yeah.
Well, your next match is going to be an even tougher opponent. It's Cyril, who is so strong lately. A lot of people consider him the best European player right now. What do you think about him?
Yeah, he is pretty good. He play very safe and very perfect. So I think it will be hard, but I think I have confidence. Yeah.
All right, well, congratulations, True, and best of luck in that quarterfinal match against Cyril. For now, let's head back to the desk.
That's right, despite a loss in game number 2, True is able to be triumphant in this best of 5. Games 3 and 4 look pretty much solidly in his possession. I'm joined once again by Rotterdam and Pig here. And Roddy, it really felt like True had good command over game 3 and 4.
I mean, solid is maybe not the way that I would normally describe what we're seeing over here. I mean, we're seeing 8 queens being dropped in a Protoss Natural. I'm not sure if that's my definition of solid ZvP, but I mean, it did work. I mean, in game 3, I must say on Sequencer, he did have excellent defense against the Zealots early on.
Yeah.
And True is really good. And obviously he stopped building drones at one point. And then he's like, all right, I'll defend that. And that's the moment I'll grab all my units and I'll run across the map. And then the numbers of Zerglings and Hydras are so much higher than you normally expect them of a Zerg that goes up to like 68, 69 or 70 drones, gets a couple Bailings, gets Bailing speed, gets +2. True, none of that, you know, it's like upgrade,
yeah.
unit, and then he just has so much more, and you take one bad fight, and at that point you're just so outnumbered that it doesn't really matter what you do anymore as a Protoss.
Yeah, I mean, I think Drogo, he had to be solid. We talked about it before the match. True's going to test you, he's going to attack. Drogo lost a few oracles in the early game there. I think that's really big. That unit is so important.
Stasis as well, right, defensively.
Exactly. You lose just a little bit of momentum and things can fall away so quickly. So, I mean, just a fantastic series from True. I do like that big Ling Queen all in the final game. I thought Drogo was changing things up really well. He's like, hey, I'm going to do a bit of an adept glaive pressure after my oracles.
Yeah.
And then it's like 400 Zerglings just destroy everything. It's like, oh, okay, that's playing True, man.
Very difficult to deal with. Let's check in with the bracket to get the updated version of what has gone on so far here in our round of 16. If you're just joining us now, you missed out on Cyril being victorious 3-1 over Cloudy just before, and True moves on as well. So 2 Zergs in our round of 8 so far. What does this mean for PtitDrogo now? Does this change the landscape of him being able to try and push himself onto the round of, the top 8 for the global finals?
It's obviously going to be tough, but we still have Montreal ahead of us.
Yeah.
In 5-6 weeks, so plenty of time to get ready for Montreal. But this could have been a huge stepping stone. This really could have been an opportunity to not only break into the top 8, but maybe even go a little further and really cement yourself in it. If Drogo, with the way he was playing yesterday, I was like, maybe Drogo could actually make it to a final here. I mean, he already played against Cyril and Jönköping. Those were close games, and I feel maybe with a few adjustments, maybe Drogo could have gone all the way. Unfortunately for him, that's not the case. And Yeah, we've got a ZvZ quarterfinal instead.
It kind of felt like night and day watching how Drogo approached yesterday, dancing around, skipping his step, to today going up against True, who pulls out some funky build pick.
Yeah, it can make you a little bit nervous playing against someone like True. It's always scary. One of these guys who doesn't really take any of the safety steps anyone else does. You know,
Yeah.
we've already talked about it. He's going to skip the Baneling Nest. He'll skip some of those upgrades. He'll just have a bit more stuff than you're used to playing against. But that's what True specializes in, and it's always about the details with him. You know, it's easy to look at True and say, this guy just chooses some aggression. He just goes with it and hope it works. No, it's a lot more complex than that. His Zerglings are always distracting. He's always looking for openings, and he's always applying a lot more pressure. That's why Drogo was, you know, a little bit nervous there. I don't think he played his absolute best.
Yeah.
You know, you could see he was a little bit disappointed with himself after that game, and it's something we've seen with a lot of True's opponents in the past.
I think it's really hard to praise True because sometimes for things he does right. Because what he does with the links, it looks really ineffective. Because you know you're looking at it as a neutral observer. You're like, he's just running around. He made a bunch of links. He's not doing anything. But that's not right. He's actually doing so much. He's just not doing direct damage. But it's so damn annoying to play against a Zerg.
Yeah.
Every probe that you're transferring to the Neo base, there's 8 Zerglings trying to pick it off. Every time you send one adept forward, there's 12 Zerglings. Like, why do you have 12 Zerglings here? You know, make drones on the other side of the map. That's what you're supposed to do. But actually, like, True is just so annoying that he's forcing a lot of indirect mistakes on the
Right.
Protoss, because as a Protoss, you kind of just want to, you know, execute your build as cleanly as possible, then focus on the Prism. You know, we're like a one step at a time race. And then you've got that annoying Zerg who's just running around with Zerglings all the time. So it's really hard to really put it into words why it's so effective. But I guess the only way to describe it is just annoying and distracting, but that does really work. And it's really hard to still just sit there as a Protoss, stay calm and composed, and execute the build you had in mind.
Well, from a few strong Zergs to another 2 in just a few moments' time. Thank you very much, guys. As after the break, we're going to have Nurcio going up against Stefano. So don't go anywhere. More WCS Valencia action coming up very, very soon.